Whenever and wherever you want to talk sports.
Now it's time for Monty in the Morning.
Hey, yo, man. How the heck are you? It is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. The Monty Show live on YouTube and anywhere you get a podcast, just open up the old Google machine. You know, Jake, I did this with a business owner at the Yelpatory yesterday.
Really?
I said, just open up Google and search The Monty Show, M-O-N-T-Y, The Monty Show, and it pops up everything Monty. Our podcast, our YouTube, our Twitter, our Instagram.
I don't know if you guys knew that, but Google's actually like a search engine, and it pulls information when you search and stuff.
In SEO and web crawlers and whatnot. So just search The Monty Show, M-O-N-T-Y, The Monty Show. Kenny's first one in. He says, morning, folks. Morning, Kenny. Pleasure to be with you. We have got to get to Donovan Mitchell and his impact in the Utah legislature. This story is freaking phenomenal. We've got football tonight. We open up the NFL season. We've got a lock for you. Tampa's -8, 51.5 is the number. We'll have a pick on that for you coming up before the show is over. But we want to start right here on the Monty Show with the very latest details in Big 12 expansion. And boy, do we have breaking news for you this morning. If you follow me on Twitter, The Monty Show, M-O-N-T-Y, The Monty Show. Hey, baby. That's me. You would know this already, and that is that BYU is anticipating and is prepared for a Friday announcement by the Big 12 that they will add Houston, BYU, Central Florida, and Cincinnati to the conference. And those invitations will be acknowledged on Friday. All applications have been, submitted to the conference. There was a lot of talk that BYU had not submitted an application yet. Completely false. I am told that BYU has had an application in for some time, and that this conversation with BYU and the Big 12 has actually been going on for several months. About 3 weeks before the Texas-Oklahoma situation became public, that those two were fleeing to the SEC. BYU and the Big 12 had been in conversations. This has been a foregone conclusion that BYU would join the Big 12 for months now. The other major part of this is we now know what we believe, or what BYU believes, are the divisions in the Big 12. And BYU will play in what we are surmising is the Big 12 West. It makes no sense to call it the North and the South because, well, that's not how your teams are split. You are the East and the West. BYU would be in a division with Baylor, TCU, Texas Christian, BYU, Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, Houston, and likely Iowa State. That division of the new Big 12, Jake, that would be incredible. I think that's arguably, outside of the SEC, the best division in any conference of any P5 conference outside of the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be really strong, and I think that when we're talking about timelines and how all this came together, and now what division they're potentially going to be in based on your sources, I think that I think it makes perfect sense. If you think about it, this conversation, for the Big 12 and really for BYU has been going on for a while, but you start to kind of put it together, and once the rumblings really started getting real that Texas and Oklahoma were going to leave, now what kind of position does that put the Big 12 in as a conference? All right, well, now we got to find a solution. Who's the first person we're calling, or the first school we're calling? BYU. So it makes perfect sense timeline-wise, and I think, that division, if that's what it ends up penciling out I think that's really exciting. I think if you're BYU, that's you couldn't really ask for much better in this setup, and I think that, one thing from BYU's side of the table here is that, in independence, they're able to schedule, a really difficult schedule. They're able to, get into the SEC. They're able to get into the Pac-12. They're able to do these things. And so this whole time, sort of like an overreaching kind of point here is that you don't want to take too much of a hit on the schedule. You want to make sure you keep a good strength of schedule. And so I think that, is Texas Christian the same opponent as LSU? No, probably not. Most definitely not. But at the same time, it's still a good division. inside of a P5 conference, and all you have to do is go and win that conference to get an auto bid into the college football playoffs. So to me, you're already, in a much better position.
The other thing that really comes to mind about this is that BYU has had influence on this process from the beginning. And as much as we were mocked and told that we're, hey, drinking the blue Kool-Aid, we've been telling you for a long time now that BYU has relationships in place. Tom Holmoe has been working behind the scenes, not just on building an independent program, but bringing BYU to the best place for BYU athletics to excel. And I think there's no question that, again, I will say the same thing I feel like I've said for a week straight. Tom Holmoe does not get enough credit for being an operator behind the scenes and for having relationships. And if it's not the fact that he's on the NCAA tournament selection committee, that he is involved in the college football playoff, that he is networking and building these relationships, if that didn't prove it to you, now that you know, and now that we know that BYU and the Big 12 have been talking about this for an extended period of time, I think there's no doubt that Tom Holmoe is an elite operator behind the scenes and somebody that has built relationships. There's no question about that. And if you look at how these divisions work out, ask yourself what a potential Big 12 East would look like. Kansas, K-State, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Central Florida, and likely Oklahoma State, And Oklahoma State, the other thing that's come out of these conversations is Oklahoma State carries a lot of water in the Big 12. Mm-hmm. And we've always known that Oklahoma State has a lot of donor money, that they are well-heeled when it comes to boosters, and they have a lot of influence. And I think they are, trying to figure out where they best slot. I think they know that already. I think it's very clear that the Big 12 knows what these divisions will look like. And I think it makes a heck of a lot more sense to have Iowa State in the East and Oklahoma State in the West. Flip that. Oklahoma State in the East and Iowa State in the West, as opposed to the other way around. I mean, it just makes more sense with a legacy brand in the conference like Oklahoma State. It makes a lot more sense to pair them with those other schools. But I don't think any way you slice it, this Big 12 is a real handful. And the question is this version of the Big 12, is it competitive enough in both basketball and football, to really continue growing and to continue expanding? Because I don't think there's any question that this grouping of teams makes a pretty formidable football and basketball, conference.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be really competitive, and I think that the basketball side of this conversation is huge. I think that we're so often we're so enamored by football and everything that goes down in football, we forget that Oklahoma State has had their fair share of really good really good players. You have several of these programs that have done some nice things on the basketball side, and I think that if you're the Big 12, you're sitting here saying, hey, we're going to get a lot more exposure by putting this whole thing together, and I think that in terms of how they're going to compete with the other conferences, well, nobody's the SEC. And I think that's saying, well, they're not going to be able to compete with the SEC. Well, that may be true, but at the end of the day, you still got to have someone represent you in the college football playoff. That's your goal. That's what you want. And I think that at the end of the day, again, if you're BYU, your sole focus and goal in this whole thing is, A, are we in a better spot going to a P5 conference with its current situation than we would be staying in independence? I think, based on this setup and the information we got, I would have to say, yes, you are. Yes, you are. I think you're more competitive. I think you have I know for a fact you have a much clearer path to winning a national championship. Not that that's probably going to happen anytime soon, but at least now you have the path. Now it's a possibility. And then number 3, overall, this is going to help you continue to cultivate relationships in the program in terms of NIL deals, in terms of continuing the ESPN relationship. So I just think overall for BYU, this is nice. This is a good setup. This could have gone a lot worse. This could have, they could have had much lesser programs joining the conference. Because imagine what kind of position you'd be in if they were, if it turned out to be Liberty joining the Big 12. Like, that's not Liberty. That's not going to be That's just not going to work out, with all due respect to Liberty, you know? So that's why I say, if you're BYU, you should feel good about yourself right now. You know, you've got good business deals working. You're joining a P5 by all accounts, by all the information we have. Obviously, it's not official yet, but it looks like it's going to happen. And I think that the only question for me that remains is just timing. Does BYU, and again, this is unique to BYU because BYU isn't in a conference right now, obviously. So does BYU join tomorrow? Does BYU join in 3 years when everyone else joins? Like, what is the logistics?
I think that's the biggest unknown here. And I think that's known already. In fact, I know that those details are worked out. We just haven't been able to access them at this point. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have BYU join the Big 12 for 2022.
So you can be the Big 13.
Yeah, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But stranger things have happened. I think the information that matters most this morning is that you're going to have BYU in a division with Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, Houston, and Iowa State. I mean, that is absolutely a dogfight in football.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think that's what you want, right? I mean, the last thing you want is to go from independence and having that strong-ass schedule to a P5 and a weak schedule. That's the last thing you wanted. So to me, again, because the Pac-12 is just such a trash conference right now, and because that was never really an option for you in terms of Pac-12 expansion, and the SEC was not an option, and the ACC wasn't an option, I feel like this whole situation has worked out pretty nice.
Well, and there's a couple of questions that have to be asked here. As far as BYU goes, how quickly can they scale up to compete at the top of this conference? Because you look at whether it's going to be, what we're surmising is the East versus the West. The Eastern Division of the new Big 12 is absolutely crushing as well. And I think this is as strong of a rebound. If you're the Big 12, this is as strong as a rebound as you could have hoped for, losing brands like Texas and Oklahoma. But I think if you're BYU, the question that you have to have asked is, are we done here now? Are we going to be 14 teams, 16 teams? Are we going to be a super conference at some point? Are there efforts behind the scenes to merge? That's a huge question. The second question you have to ask yourself is, well, how quickly can we recruit up and build talent and get into the transfer portal and get JUCO talent to compete at the top of this conference in football? And how quickly can Mark Pope build a basketball program that can compete with Kansas, that can compete with the major college basketball brands in this conference? Because don't sleep on Oklahoma State as a basketball program. And I think, again, when you look at Baylor, I don't think there's any question that Baylor's a major player in college basketball.
They just won the whole thing.
You're looking at real talent and real depth across this entire conference.
Yeah, look no further than Jared Butler, right? I mean, look no further than what the Jazz have been able to bring in. So I just think that BYU is probably going to get put through the ringer a little bit in basketball, but I think they'll build. I think as you play better competition, that betters your program. Sometimes that takes a little longer. Sometimes sometimes you can bounce back from that pretty quick. So I think on the basketball side it's going to be a little tougher. But I think the most important thing here to me is not even what happens on the basketball court or the football field. It's about the business dealings and the relationships and how all of this kind of pans out in the day-to-day versus what you had in the day-to-day as an independent. That, to me, is really what is top-notch.
Yeah, and I just think this has played out perfectly for BYU. I mean, there's not much more that you could have asked for or hoped for, and I think if you are a fan of BYU, I think you're absolutely delighted this morning because you have a situation where your path to a national championship now is very clear. And you're in a conference that if you win this conference championship and you're playing in the college football playoff, you've earned your way to that. This is not the mountain. This is not, an easy, clear path for Boise. This is absolutely positively a dogfight in the Big 12. And I think this is exactly what you want if you're BYU. They should be able to, I would guess, within 3 seasons, be able to scale up and really compete for a conference championship. I think you should be able to compete in every game you're going to play in right out of the gate. Kalani and his staff are too talented not to. But if you're a BYU fan, be excited about this. but just understand that there's going to be some kicks in the bag here. Like it is going to be, in the beginning of processes like this, and again, I think even for Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC, you're going to have to climb the hill early. And then you're going to make or break. And I think we've seen that with Utah and Witt and joining the Pac-12. It took a long time for Kyle Whittingham to talent and scale up that program. And I think that hill will be much easier to climb than the Pac-12 was. But let's be honest about it. BYU's got some hurdles in front of them in football and basketball here. I mean, this is not going to be easy. Let's get some of your thoughts in here on Twitter. Impersonated Sally Jesse Raphael.
Who the f*** is that guy?
I don't know how to say your name, but it's fine. And now I just got a bunch of new tweets, so I lost your tweet. But basically, his question was, why are you guys such BYU homers? You never talk Utah. Okay, well, we talk a lot of Utah. And obviously, we have a game Saturday. By the way, have you at all thought about how you think that game's going to end or how that game's going to, the outcome of the Holy War?
I mean, I think that I think that BYU has a better chance this year than they've had in prior years. I think that when we get tweets about people saying that we're homers, well, last time I checked, Utah wasn't joining a new conference, and Utah hasn't really done anything of note recently. So all the Utah fans are going to say, "Oh my God, well, you guys are BYU homers." No, actually, we just happen to know a few people down there, in that team down south in Provo that I know doesn't ever do anything. We happen to know a few people down there, and they're doing some things. And so I think it's worth noting and talking about what they're doing. And by the way, Utah fan, if you get your ass handed to you in Provo on Saturday, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear the hey, BYU sucks. Like at some point it's got to stop.
But I think what's interesting is with all this conference expansion. Ooh, look at Gabe Ledley. You guys. Well, by the way, I would like to say, Gabe Ledley, Lopes fan Gabe, is responsible for ruining the show today. He is the reason that we're going to talk about sperm coming up later on the show.
Was that like a euphemism or?
No, actually it wasn't. But when you're naturally gifted as an orator as myself.
Sometimes I think I just say shit. Sample what comes out of my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm orally gifted. But
really? I've heard that about you.
What I meant was, anyway, the point is it's Gabe's fault.
Hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, no, it's ivermectin. Anyway, the point is, Gabe says, you guys are selling Mark Pope as a high major coach. Is a bridge too far for me? After watching Dan Marley hand it to him year after year in the WAC,
yeah, no kidding.
He's not the one.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll see.
We'll find out. I think he is the one, Gabe. I actually think when you look at SUU versus BYU and the facilities and the ability to recruit, and I think we'll see. The proof will be in the pudding.
My point just is I get burned out on Utah fan just hating on BYU for no reason. Like I get burned out on that because at some point you have to admit that now BYU, assuming that this is announced on Friday, which seems like the plan, if this all gets announced on Friday and everything, now you cannot make the case that BYU is the little brother anymore. They're in a P5.
It's team down south, please.
They have a clear path to the national or to the college football playoff. Like
you're drinking the blue Kool-Aid.
I get it.
You're
paint
wearing
me,
the blue sunglasses.
Call me a Smurf. I don't give a damn. I'm just telling you, they're doing things, dude. They're doing things.
I'm sorry. Did you just reference yourself as like Papa Smurf?
It's a perfectly calibrated recipe for maximum personal achievement.
Yeah, which is why you're single, dumbass. Anyway, the point is, hey, how are you? My name's Jake, but all my friends, all two of them call me Papa Smurf.
We still never talk sometimes.
That's why you're single.
Thanks.
Your go-to pickup line is, I'm Papa Smurf. Nice to meet you.
Well said.
Want to drink my blue Kool-Aid? Anyway, the point is, I think if this all comes to fruition, what we've been told is going to happen Friday, the momentum's going to be with BYU. The game's in Provo. There's new scoreboards. You can't tell me they're not going to have like a celebratory atmosphere.
Will it be sold out?
Oh my God, yes. And that's the other thing. Like traditionally, we would be going to this game.
Yeah.
Speaking of ivermectin, we're not because of COVID.
Hydroxychloroquine.
I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not ready to, like that Michigan thing over the weekend. Dude, a packed house at Michigan. I'm not ready for that. We'll see. We'll see when. I don't know.
Coronavirus.
I know you've taken like 7 shots of the vaccine, so you're probably more confident
you might as well
than me.
just give me, ivermectin at this point. I've taken everything else, right?
Well, and you're never going to need your sperm, so it's fine.
Do you
happen
to have horse dewormer as well?
Wait till you hear this ivermectin story later. It's amazing. The point is, I would lean BYU's way here, as long as there is a Big 12 announcement on Friday, which I'm pretty much 90-10 that there's going to be at this point. The people who are telling me that, or the people who have been that source, I think are not usually wrong. So, Neville93 says, and again, please put me on the list for the Xbox One. I'll send you all my info. I can even go pick it up right now.
So what are we doing with the Xbox, bro? What are we doing?
Okay, so we are going to give away this Xbox, and it's very simple how you do this. It's the same as it's always been. If you are subscribed and you are in the piece of Tupperware that's sitting over there, which means that you have taken a picture that you're subscribed to this channel, you have tagged us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, both of us, not one of us or the other of us.
That doesn't count.
Both of us, SLC Supercars and The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show, tag us both on social in a picture that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, and you'll be entered to win this Xbox. I want to give it away. Everybody is asking me for it. I'm amazed that a $1,000 Traeger smoker is not getting the run that this Xbox is. Everybody wants this Xbox. Okay.
I want it.
Well, then you're going to have to subscribe to the channel. You're going to have to tag us in a photo that shows you're subscribed on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. It's that simple. If you do that, you're going to win the Xbox. Now, having said that, I mean, it's 120 FPS frame rates per your mom.
I want better fucking execution.
It's Xbox Velocity architecture, Xbox Velocity stuff.
Are we clear on that?
512 gigs of solid state drive. I mean, what's not to like?
Solid state.
I'll give you my solid state with high dynamic range and disc-free gaming.
And it's very powerful.
By the way, I have this Xbox upstairs in the living room. It's amazing.
Solid state.
Yeah, I got a solid state for you, Luca's mom. Anyway, the point is, this Xbox.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
There's one thing have to do
but
with the other.
You know what? She's my plus one.
Okay.
It is what it is. I haven't asked my wife about that yet. Anyway, the point is, you want to win this Xbox? It's really easy. All you have to do is tag us on social with a picture that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You do that, you're entered to win the Xbox.
Bada boom, bada bing.
You don't, or you can't read, you probably shouldn't be playing Xbox anyways. You should do your homework instead. All right, let's switch gears, and I want to get into this Donovan Mitchell thing. Because, and I know anytime that we bring up CRT, anytime we bring up critical race theory, a bunch of angry old white men get very upset. Look, I get it. I totally understand it. I understand why you would be upset. I understand all of it. But I'm telling you right now that Donovan Mitchell preventing a law that would ban critical race theory in Utah schools is not getting enough run.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Donovan Mitchell is a black man in this country, and he was able to stop legislation in the state of Utah to ban critical race theory is amazing to me. And it's not getting enough run.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I always am amazed by is that we have people on a regular basis that will tell you that, critical race theory is bad, and I don't want to argue critical race theory at this point. I think we've done that many times on the show. I want to talk about the fact that Donovan Mitchell, who is a middle 20s black man, in a state that is overwhelmingly known as a white state based in religion, one black man was able to bring critical race theory to a complete halt, and nobody's talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I find that remarkable. I find it remarkable that Donovan Mitchell used his platform as a black man who is a unbelievable basketball player. He leveraged that notoriety to work behind the scenes, because you haven't heard anything about this, right?
Yep.
He used that platform to stop a piece of legislation so that kids in schools in Utah can learn about the history of racism and slavery in this country and can be educated on the actual history instead of the presupposed, here's what we want you to know history, which means I'm creeping way too close to critical race theory. Are you surprised that Donovan Mitchell has that kind of pull?
Surprised would be the wrong word. I think what I'm happily impressed with is that he's actually doing something about it, because I do think this is what we talk about with LeBron all the time, right? We talk about LeBron James all the time in this light. Hey, he's got a show. He's got all that, I don't, no matter what you think of LeBron, he's one of the best players in the NBA even still. He's got all this stuff. And what does he do with it? Well, 9 days out of 10, he doesn't do anything with it, right? I mean, he's built a school once. He's done this. He's done that. He's had some nice PR. But this is different, what Don's doing. I mean, to me, this whole thing is Donovan Mitchell, saying, I'm going to use my platform to stop something. But B, what I think is even more impressive is he wasn't trying to have it in the news. He wasn't trying to be the hero, right? Which tells me that his goals are correct. His motivations are correct. It's not about, hey, I want to do this so I can get in the news in a political sense. No, I want to do this because I disagree with it. I disagree with the idea that our kids should not learn about the actual history, which is essentially the crux of the conversation that we're not going to have on today's show. So my point just is that when you ask me, hey, am I surprised that Donovan Mitchell can do this? No, I'm not surprised. But what I am surprised about is that he actually did it. That's what I'm surprised about. We don't hear about athletes doing things like this enough, and that needs to change. It needs to change. I don't want to see you on the shop. I want to see, old white guys in this video going around Twitter complaining about, the NBA and some guy named Donovan Mitchell stopped us. That's what I want to see.
And by the way, Stuart Adams is a Republican from Layton. He's the Senate president. He is influential. He is older, and he is white, which means that he doesn't do a whole lot of listening. And let's be honest about it. I mean, and this is something that I think is a real problem in this country. And it's at the root of things like critical race theory. Because what Stuart Adams said was that Donovan Mitchell doesn't understand what we were doing and doesn't understand critical race theory, and we need to educate him. Mm-hmm. Well, what do you mean by that, sir? When you say that you want to educate Donovan Mitchell, what does that mean? Does that mean that, he's not allowed to drink from that water fountain? Because that's what it sounds like. Does that mean that he's not allowed to, go to that beach? Because that's what it sounds like. Does that mean he's not allowed to sit down at that diner counter? Because that's what this sounds like. Should Donovan Mitchell just shut up and dribble? Because that's what this sounds like. Mm-hmm. When you say, we need to educate that young man, is that code or a euphemism for something? Because that's what this sounds like.
Yeah.
The problem is we don't need to educate people. We need to listen to people. We need to put people like Stuart Adams out to pasture. And the issue is that guys like Stuart Adams are lifelong Republicans who never have to worry about their jobs. And so they want to educate. They don't want to listen. And so when you educate people, there's no conversation. It's, hey, Donovan, if you could just, shut up and listen for a minute. Yeah, we'll educate you. That's what this is. And this is my problem with it. Because Donovan Mitchell doesn't have to do anything that you want him to do. He has got fuck you money. He has got the platform and the ability to do whatever he wants. Frankly, he's got an owner in Ryan Smith who is behind him on this.
Which is huge.
He's got an NBA commissioner and hundreds of his fellow colleagues who are behind him on this. And frankly, Stuart Adams, Republican from Layton, there's nothing you can do to educate Donovan Mitchell. There's nothing you can do to stop Donovan Mitchell from working against what I believe is your preformed thought that black men need to be educated, not listened to. And that's the problem with guys like Stuart Adams.
Yeah.
Because when you say things, and I'll read you the direct quote, and I wish we had the audio on it.
We do.
We do?
Yeah.
Well, why the...
Wow, there is a massive spider on the wall. Do you see that thing?
Well, don't let it eat you.
Wow.
That's a bit... There's a huge spider in our studio. It's coming for that ass.
Well, it's Air Jordan 1 about to have some fun, man.
Okay. So we have it. Okay, yeah, I did not realize. Here is Stuart Adams, the Utah Senate president, Republican from Layton, talking about CRT and Donovan Mitchell.
Laboratories of democracy, and that's just not a phrase, it's the truth. We copied Minnesota's abortion bill. I think we've joined in your lawsuit. And so Mississippi's bill, and we've joined with them when their lawsuit. So, and then we tried to do something similar to Florida and Mississippi. It made it through the House, came to the Senate. We thought we had it done, but then there was pretty good backlash from the Jazz and other sports organizations and the NBA. And it stalled in the Senate. I hate to tell you that, but it did. I mentioned during the general session, we passed resolution trying to ban critical race theory because the governor wouldn't put it on our call yesterday. We did it as a resolution. I just got a text last night, and I hate to use names, but I will. Donovan Mitchell is not happy with us, and you start to get very popular sports stars like that are pushing back. We've got work to do to try to educate him. And my text back was, let's get after him and let's go tell him what we're doing, because I don't really think he understands what happened. But it is a problem. It's not something that we've seen a lot in Utah, but I think it is a big issue, and we're going to deal with it.
Okay, that's Stuart Adams, Republican from Layton, who sounds like a complete bigot, frankly. The bill he was referencing was the transgender athlete bill that banned transgender athletes in girls' sports. That pretty much 9 out of 10 people are not in favor of. And if you are, hey, that's a conversation. Frankly, I lost a very good friend over this argument. I don't even know where to... Do you understand that this is a guy who represents us? This is a guy who just said, well, I don't want to name names, but Donovan Mitchell's not happy with us.
I just got a text last night, and I hate to use names, but I will. Donovan Mitchell is not happy with us.
I mean, do you understand? Do you understand that this is the state we live in? And do you understand that guys like Stuart Adams are the problem, not the solution? This guy's 1,000 years old and doesn't care what a black man has to say, because that's what that clip sounds like to me.
To me, maybe I'm a little too far here, but to me, I think it goes further than that. I don't think it's that he doesn't care what Donovan Mitchell says. I think he cares a lot what Donovan Mitchell says, and I think he views Donovan as like
a threat,
a threat or the enemy, if you will.
Okay, I would agree with that. I think you know what? I think let me put it this way. He doesn't value what Donovan Mitchell has to say, but he does care. I would agree with that 100%.
Because I think Donovan has done so well here that he's not giving whatever this guy's name is, he's not giving
Stuart Adams.
Stuart Adams. He's not giving Stuart Adams a choice. Stuart Adams has to care now.
Do you understand that this is the problem with critical race theory?
Yeah.
Is that critical race theory, by any Stuart Adams standard, teaches you that white people are racists. And there's no other conversation to have. We're not talking about this. Donovan, you need to listen. I'm going to educate you. That's the critical race theory in this country. I'm amazed by this. I want to understand.
Yeah.
But here's the crux of this. When you have a platform like Donovan Mitchell has, it's not optional anymore to sit down and, LeBron, you should shut up and dribble. It's not optional anymore.
My thing is, though, LeBron did that. You remember, we all remember LeBron did the car ride, right, with KD, and they did that whole video. And to me, what Donovan's doing here, whether you agree or not with this whole story, right? Like, let's put that on the back burner. We're not having a discussion about whether you agree or not, or what we think about CRT or anything like that. I'm talking about just hey, Donovan believes in something so strongly that he's willing to take almost no credit for it until this video came out. Nobody knew about this until this video came out. So he's willing to take no credit for this, but he's so damn passionate about it that he's willing to put money into it. He's willing to put time into it, into the offseason, like all of this stuff on the heels of getting your ass kicked by the Clippers in the postseason and being criticized and being ripped for not doing enough.
Wasn't it Rolling Stone or GQ or over the summer, Donovan Mitchell did an interview talking about how he wanted to work with the Utah legislature.
Yes. And they won't work with him, clearly.
And they won't work with him.
Clearly.
I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing. Let me get some of the comments in here. Brylark says, F that guy, pretty much.
Yeah.
Sam Kim says, Utah has a legit program with Whittingham. Otherwise, no one cares about Utah. The less Utah says, the better. Just play football. Okay. Red Heart Norvis says, is Donovan Mitchell a sports mascot? Utah loves him as their franchise player, but doesn't get to support things he believes in. That's right.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's
100%.
Right. That's right.
And I think, frankly, you know what? I think that's what a lot of our whether we're talking federally or at the state level, what a lot of our old white, Republican friends would like to happen. Hey, just play basketball, make bring in a lot of revenue and create a lot of jobs, and we don't want to hear from you.
Sam Kim says, good Lord, you guys are the opposite of funny. Utah, or no, he goes on to say, in this new world of streaming, some channels rise like 365 Sports from Waco. Channels like this one only display bitterness and only shows how provincial parts of Utah are. The channel isn't a good look for a national audience. Well, I don't know that we're trying. Are we trying to be a national audience?
We're not trying to be anything other than what we are.
Yeah, we don't have rules on this show.
Yeah,
man.
Here's the thing, and I don't want to come off as a hard ass with you, dude. But at the end of the day, we've faced this a million times, and I'm gonna keep saying it. If you don't like it, then you can take your ass to 365 Sports. I really don't care.
Yeah.
Like, this is a hard hitting, right here in Salt Lake City story, and we sit in Salt Lake City. This matters. This affects the day to day. In maybe not necessarily our lives, because we're past the school system now, obviously, but we know people who have kids in school. We have like dedicated listeners who have kids in school, and this is a huge deal. So for me, you can say what you want, dude, but at the end of the day, we just did 5,000 views, one of our biggest videos yesterday. We're well over 200 new subs this week. Like, you can say what you want, but at the end of the day, we're doing us.
Yeah, we don't play by rules. We don't we do what we want to do. That's why we're on YouTube. That's why we're on podcasts, because it's not your show, Sam. Like, we play to the stories that we're passionate about, and we play to what our listeners want to hear. The people who come here every day to listen to this show know what they're going to get. There is no secret what this show is about. This show is about pro sports, college sports, and the biggest headlines in non-sports. That's essentially what we talk about. And we talk about my dog's leg or my paver patios or traveling or cars or tires or whatever the hell we want, because, again, we don't play by rules. We do what we want to do when we want to do it. And by the way, it's worked out pretty well. And I'll say it a little more politically correct than Jake does. If you don't like it, get the fuck out. I don't care. Seriously, when you come in and you start talking about how stick to sports, okay, well, you clearly don't get it. You don't get it. And when you come in and say we're bitter, we're not bitter at all. We're not. We're not from Utah. We are not BYU fans. And you keep saying, like, he keeps going on about how, we're not BYU fans. I'm a Notre Dame fan.
This is classic. Hey, I'm going to say a bunch of stuff, but I'm not going to ask any questions about who you guys are or where you're from. Guy, we're from Chicago.
And Jeremy Bolton makes the best point. If you haven't figured it out yet, this show's about Luca's mom and ass vacuums. Like, what are you confused about? That's so true. Ass vacuums. That's what this show's about.
Vacuums might be one of the best polls that's ever happened on the show, dude.
I agree. James Knight says, morning, guys. How's the pooch? He's better. They didn't charge us any money, and they gave us a bunch of painkillers. I took them last night.
Oh.
I didn't.
Ivermectin?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's about killing sperm, this show, Sam.
Yeah.
You're welcome to see the door.
Yeah.
Don't let it hit you where the good Lord splits you. Neville93 says, I think Mitchell wants to do all this because he lives here, and he's planning to be here a while. Well, and that's the thing. Like,
why is it a problem that he's doing all this?
Throw critical race theory out. He's a guy with a platform. Donovan Mitchell has far more power than Spencer Cox. Donovan Mitchell can walk into any school in the state of Utah and instantly has credibility, and everybody will listen to every word he says.
Literally.
I would bet that there are middle schools that Spencer Cox can walk into. Hell, I would bet that there are some college classrooms and lecture halls that Spencer Cox, who's the governor of Utah, could walk into and people would not know he is. You put Donovan Mitchell up on the hill at Utah in any lecture hall, and he walks in there, everybody in that room knows who he is. Mm-hmm. And if he starts talking critical race theory or basketball, they're going to listen to every word he says.
Even if they disagree. He's Donovan Mitchell.
And I say this about LeBron James. This is why I was so hard on LeBron James during the Black Lives Matter stuff over the summer. Where were you? You were not at the front. You were at the back on your bicycle with your face covered. Mm-hmm. And what are you doing? Like, to me, you're either all the way in or you're all the way out. And Don here is all the way in. All right. Can we lighten the mood and get to a football pick, please?
Yeah, dude.
Finally. Sam Kim, you jerk. I'm not new. What is this channel supposed to cover? Is it a Utah Salt Lake City show or sports? Yeah, all of those things.
Why does there have to be one thing that it covers?
Oh, I am new.
Here's the thing.
Listen, Wade, we don't have we talk about what we want. We live in Salt Lake City by choice, not because we have to. Neither one of us are LDS. We could live anywhere we want. We chose to live in Salt Lake City.
We're thinking about taking this thing on the road to LA next week.
Because we can.
Because we can.
And who's going to tell us no? And by the way, we live in Salt Lake City because it's a great place to live. We have the people here are tremendous. I wish the air wasn't full of smoke every day, but that's not just Utah. But it's a great place to live. I live here because I want to, not because I have to. Mm-hmm. And again, we talk about BYU and Utah because that's our largest listenership. Utah, the state of Utah, is Arizona's number 2, Los Angeles is number 3, and Chicago and New York are a close 4 and 5. That's the split on the show. That's why we talk about the Dallas Cowboys being an 8-point dog to the Tampa Bay Bucks tonight. The number's 51.5. Tom Brady's going to make his 300th NFL start tonight. But here's the tough part about this game. The Bucks are an 8-point favorite. Tom Brady's 4-3 in his last 7 openers. Mm-hmm. Dak Prescott is coming back, as is Tyron Smith, a Pro Bowl offensive lineman, and Lyle Collins, who both missed just about as much time as Dak Prescott did. So the question has to be asked, if you're a Cowboy fan, and if you are, please leave. No, I'm kidding. Joke. That was a joke. Sam, I'm kidding. If you are a Cowboy fan, I think you have to have some level of concern, and a pretty significant one, for Dak Prescott, because not only is he coming back from the leg where my foot was pointed
the wrong way
towards my ass vacuum, but you also have this lat strain that you're not over, and by some accounts, you will not be over this lat strain in his arm. He's had this shoulder lat injury since first week of training camp. Some people say until you rest for 90 days, that injury's not going away. So he's going to have that injury all year long. Jake, you know, were pleasuring yourself to the Cowboys getting under the 8 or winning the game.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still leaning towards Cowboys
They're
tonight?
definitely under the 8. I don't think there's any doubt
I'm
about
sorry,
that.
they're definitely under the 8.
They're definitely under the 8, I think. I think that Tom Brady teams typically, as you were just saying, they start the season a bit slow. Now, last year I feel like was a bit of an enigma because he was new team, new players, new staff, like all this new stuff. So, you know, he was kind of winging it out there. So, yes, they'll be a little better this year, but I don't think that right now, here today, in this game, that they're 10 or even 8 points better than the Dallas Cowboys are right now. That's just my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think that they're right here today. Do I think the Bucs are going to compete for the Super Bowl? Yes, I do. But I don't think week 1 on a Thursday night, you're 10 points better than the Cowboys.
What I think is interesting is this Cowboy defense has been horrendous.
Yeah.
Last year they were awful. And looking at some of their numbers, I look at the addition of Micah Parsons and Leighton Vander Esch playing together. Now, Vander Esch has got to stay healthy, but Micah Parsons had a phenomenal college career at Penn State. Screw you, Jerry Sandusky, and even more screw you, Joe Paterno. But Micah Parsons had a great college career. Had a pretty good preseason. Putting him next to Vander Esch instantly makes your defense better as long as LVE stays healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You've gotten better in the secondary, but I think ultimately the question becomes, do you have the guys to cover Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Godwin, Gronkowski, when they're getting the ball from Tom Brady? Now, I agree. Tom Brady's not been a great starter. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing Jake said when we were talking about this game in the pre-show meeting was, well, Tom Brady doesn't start the season well. Now it's a 17-game season, and I think he realizes that this is a marathon,
not a sprint.
They're going to kick the crap out of the Cowboys. I love the Bucs tonight. I think they win 31-20. I think that's under the 51.5, and here's why. This defense is very good for Tampa. I think they're getting after that ass. I think Dak's going to get hit. And my only question is, can Ezekiel Elliott, who is in phenomenal shape, can Ezekiel Elliott carry the Cowboys into the second half with a chance to win the game? Because I don't see any other way that they're in this game, Jake.
Yeah, I think that. So to me, I agree. I truly believe that Zeke decides this game. I think that, you know, if they're not able to run the ball early, if they're not averaging 4 yards a carry with Zeke, they're not going to win this game. You know, that's just going to have to be. That's just like a must-have. That has to happen for them to be in this game. But I also think, you know, with Dak, this injury thing is a big deal, and this is something I'm going to be looking for right out of the gate. What does he look like? Does he have his typical arm strength? Is he able to throw the ball, but he doesn't have the typical strength?
Well, and that's interesting you bring that up because I know you didn't see 1 minute of Hard Knocks, you loser. But I'm just ball busting.
Hey, man.
On Hard Knocks, one of the things he was talking about, Dak, was the release. He can't drive the ball forward with his hands and his hand and fingers. And that's typical of a baseball injury. This is a baseball injury, and what it does is it takes away the control and accuracy of a pitcher.
And it makes you feel almost weak when you're about to release the ball. It almost is like you just can't do what you're normally able to do. It's hard to like really describe it other than to just say like when he's got the ball here and he's stepping back, it's by his chest, and then he comes up with it. Right here, when you watch a guy throw a football, right? When that elbow comes in, when he brings his elbow forward, that's when the lat starts to get engaged, and then it's this motion where he's really limited, and that's the problem. When you're throwing a football, you've got to be able to rotate your shoulder to release the ball. And if you have a strain back there and you have a mild strain in your lat, you're not going to be able to do that at a high level.
Blah, 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 blah. Make the pick. I'm going 31-20.
I'm just saying it matters, dude. This is a big deal, bro. Like, this is not some like small deal. The Cowboys, this is a big deal for Dak. You just got this big contract. Zeke had a crap year last year. He's got to have a big year, and this offensive line has proving to do. So I don't really give a damn about the defense.
Interesting. It'll be fun to see exactly what they do and how this goes. 31-20, I'm taking the Bucs to win. By the way, tomorrow is Football Friday, our first edition for the 2021 season. Lots of NFL, lots of college picks. Obviously, we're going to give you a lock on the Holy War with BYU and Utah. We'll have 5 big locks in the NFL for you. We'll tell you why the Bears are never going to win another game ever. That'll be on the show tomorrow. So, yeah. Now, Sam Kim, I don't know why you're here. And there's 10 people asking me to block him. We don't block guys on the show ever. No. We don't do that. But he says, as an arrogant Pac-12 guy, this channel reeks of bitterness. Small-minded, self-serving pariah. Okay.
You know what's funny, dude? You know what's really funny? I don't even take that personally.
I don't.
You know why? You know why I don't take it personally? Because if you had any kind of balls behind your opinion, you wouldn't be calling us small-minded. The fact is...
And you wouldn't be here. You're only here to stir the pot and piss people off.
And that's fine. It's cool. Just own that fact. Own it. Just say, hey, I like to troll people. Cool, dude.
Cool, dude.
We know why you're here.
Congratulations.
That's fine, bro. It's fine.
You're driftwood. It is what it is, man.
That dude lasted about 10 days, and then he took his ass on the road, and now he listens after the show is done being live.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. A couple other things I want to get to.
Yeah.
So we've got to talk about Gabe Ledley's sperm killing story.
Yeah.
This will piss off Sam Kim because I don't think he has any sperm. But anyway, the point is, there's a new study coming out about ivermectin. And, this ivermectin thing.
Hydroxychloroquine.
People are using ivermectin, which, by the way, kills parasites in animals. I think it's specifically horses.
The coronavirus.
People are using ivermectin to cure coronavirus.
The coronavirus.
This just in, it doesn't look like it works. But it is very effective at whacking your sperm. So in a new study of almost 400 participants, ivermectin causes your sperm to mutate.
What?
So basically what happens is you take the ivermectin, and it makes your sperm do crazy things like grow 2 tails, grow 2 heads, swim in the wrong direction, not have vitality.
You and your mom are hillbillies.
The one commonality about what happens to your sperm when you take ivermectin, your sperm count goes way down. In some cases, it's 93% loss of sperm count. It makes you sterile.
Dude.
So I'm just asking, Joe Rogan... I'm just asking every other guy who decided to take it.
And not the vaccine.
And not get vaccinated, which the science says that vaccines overwhelmingly work. Ask Jake. Ask Jake. He's had like 13 vaccine shots.
Yeah, it's awesome,
The vaccines work. But you're going to take a horse parasite killing drug that has no basis in science or fact that it kills coronavirus. But now we know it kills your sperm, and you're still going to take it.
I think that's HIPAA.
I wouldn't do that. I'm just saying.
You have to check it before you wreck it.
No, I'm not a big fan of sperm. I mean, I think we need it as guys. Now, I'm a guy who's done having kids. Like the vasectomy that I had 10 years ago pretty much wrote that story. But if you want to have kids, I probably wouldn't be out there rocking the ivermectin.
Y'all about to fuck this up.
Gonna say that's not going to keep the DNA bloodline going.
Yeah.
Casey Finlinson says, but Joe Rogan took it.
Spinal.
Are we really talking about sperm? Yes.
Yes, we are. Yep. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yep.
See, that's what we do on this show. We don't have rules. We talk about what we want. And today it happens to be killing sperm with ivermectin. What's
an
the
antibody cocktail?
He lost in court. Did you guys see Florida Governor Ron DeSantis cannot ban masks in school?
Screw him.
Whoops. This is what I don't get about coronavirus. So there was a thing on, I want to say it was a Daily Show, where they went to the Southeast. And they started, because the Southeast is where coronavirus is living.
God bless.
And they started just walking up and down streets of people, and they just talked to people sitting on their porches.
Yeah.
And shopping at gas stations and grocery stores. Hey, are you vaccinated? No. Why not?
Physiologically, it's a non-starter.
The first answer they got, I don't have to tell you that, it's HIPAA. Well, actually, it's not HIPAA because you don't know what HIPAA means. But we're just curious, why are you not taking the vaccines?
Because that's HIPAA?
It's poison. Would you, if you got coronavirus, would you take ivermectin? Most certainly. So wait, let me get this right. The vaccines are poison, but you're going to take a drug that's meant to kill parasites in the ass of a horse.
You have to be nice to stupid people.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then there's Whole Foods. I'm a huge fan of Whole Foods.
Where is there a Whole Foods here?
Cottonwood Heights.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And isn't there one in Sugar House too? We used to live right by, why am I pointing backwards? We used to, I don't know what the fuck, man. We used to live in Cottonwood Heights in Sandy. The first building I ever walked into after the airport, but the first building I ever walked into here in the great state of Utah, was Whole Foods in Cottonwood Heights.
Okay.
I'm a huge Whole Foods guy.
Yeah.
And now the news comes out that Whole Foods is opening stores, and most of their future stores, if not all of them, will be cashierless.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And all of their future stores will only be self-checkout. And they will not provide you bags. So let's compartmentalize this. What would Donovan Mitchell say about... No, I'm kidding. That's a joke.
Where can we work in ivermectin in this story?
But they will sell ivermectin. No, I'm kidding. I am a huge fan of human beings. I like anybody not named Sam Kim. And Sam, I'm kidding.
I personally would like an apology.
Yeah, not really. Anyway, the point is, I'm a huge fan of human beings. And as somebody who, A, used to be a union worker, B, used to work in a grocery store,
I have too.
I know how difficult those jobs are. So no, I'm not using self-checkout. I never will. I don't. The only store that I use it in is Home Depot. Because sometimes the line at Home Depot are just filled with guys named Chuck who have like 8,000 2x4s. And I just don't want to wait behind that guy. But when I go to the grocery store, like Dickweed over here at Costco. What did you do at Costco? Oh, well, look, there's nobody in the self-checkout. You understand when you go to the self-checkout, you're saying, okay, we don't need to pay union workers and we don't need to pay employees. You know that, right?
Sure, yeah.
No, but I'm being serious.
Yes, I understand that because Amazon's doing something now we all have to do it. I get it.
Okay, why are you direct messaging me?
Who the hell is direct? Sam Kim is direct messaging you.
No, people are asking me to ban Sam Kim. Sam, why? Look, man, I like you. I don't want to put you in timeout. What? I don't even see Sam's comments.
How many requests to ban him are there? Are we talking like 20 or 30
We're in
now?
double digits now. Utah has a real team this year. Utes will put down the smack. LOL, that dude is just a semi-competent grifter. These clowns think they'll actually have something to say. Nah, too much effort. Making fun of this channel is way more fun and much less effort. I almost get the feeling I'm getting in touch with geniuses who support Trump. Cathartic. Okay, that tells me you know nothing about this channel.
Yeah, like literally nothing.
Trolls are dismissed comment dump. Trolls are dismissed and countered. I think it's safe to say I have not been countered. Are you a little guy that you want to be put on a countertop? Like, what is counter?
What does that even mean?
Well, he's a Pac-12 guy, so he's had access to higher education that little simps like you and me haven't.
What did you go to Stanford?
Had.
I mean, what?
Who
cares?
Does this mean like you're smarter than we are? Because we don't feel very smart right now.
Let me get this right. So wait. I just and maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are you trying to say that you said he's a Pac-12 guy? So does that mean he went to school in the Pac-12, or what does that even mean?
I don't know.
What the hell does that even mean?
I don't know. I don't ban people. Look, Sam, you can run all you want.
I mean, we'll stop reading your comments. That's fine.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't matter to me.
Like, I really don't care. I just think it's funny that this is how you're choosing to spend your morning, you know?
Which I think is funny. I mean, I could put him in timeout, but what's the point? If you're against self-checkout to protect workers, are you also against driverless trucks? I am, actually.
Yeah.
Mainly because I don't want to get hit by a driverless truck. I don't believe in the technology yet. What do you think? Adler Harris says, what do you think of the game this weekend? Thoughts are BYU, does Utah really have that big of a chance to win? Oh, what are you talking about? Utah's won 9 straight. Do they have a chance to win? Yeah, they have a chance to win.
I would think that they're favorited by most people not in Provo.
All right, so let's see. Colin is a fan of Sam's. Okay, yeah, sure. Cool. What happened to the Whole Foods plan for you to grab your food off the shelf and walk out? It auto charges you. I love that. Okay,
I love that.
I don't have a problem with, like, there's an app. My wife uses the app, the Amazon app, and if you have the app, you get a discount at Whole Foods. It's Bezos, man. The guy flew to the moon or space, or not really space, but just to the atmosphere.
I wake up in the morning, I piss excellent.
And a rocket and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, my point, you would think he'd be able to figure that out, and I guess he would. I just hate the fact that we're going to cost people jobs. I'm not a huge fan of that. I'm not. Holden Russell says this has nothing to do with Trump. Exactly. What does Donald Trump have to do with anything?
Why. That's the funny part, dude. It's
the knee jerk. No. Yeah. Okay. Wait. Somebody was talking about how schools will not be in the same division with Texas. People have been using ivermectin for years, Wade says, as a treat-all for sickness. Growing up in rural Oklahoma, there's a bunch of fringe guys that used it when they felt sick. Cheaper than a doctor. Well, I would bet that. Jesse Fawcett says, shut up about your politics. Okay. Wade says, not saying to do it, but it's not new just for treating COVID. True. Thumbs down for shaming people taking ivermectin. You guys need to stay away from CNN and Rolling Stone. Well, bro, I don't know. What's CNN got to do with it?
Again,
there's a new study out that says it kills sperm.
Don't spin it, dude. This is not rocket science.
What does CNN have to do with anything?
And by the way, let's clarify. We're not shaming people for using ivermectin. We're shaming people for using ivermectin instead of an FDA-approved vaccine that's free and readily available.
Yeah, and when did it become taboo for a guy to support people taking care of their sperm? Like, when did that happen?
Yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know if you guys are on cocaine today or like what the deal is in the comments, but we're not shaming people.
This is amazing.
For just straight up using ivermectin. We're shaming them for using ivermectin when you have a readily available vaccine that somehow. And by the way, if you think the vaccines don't work, that tells me that you're not about science. You're about like QAnon and Fox News and CNN. Like, I don't even watch the news. Like, that's the thing. I don't watch the news.
Yeah, I don't watch the news.
CNN has an agenda. Fox has an agenda. QAnon has an agenda. I don't get my news from there. That's just as simple as it is, man.
No. Yeah, I don't,
You can't get your news from the mainstream sources and think that it's 100% unbiased, just literally giving you the breakdown of what happened. Because that's not the deal. That's not how it works.
Pac-12 South is a better division than the supposed Big 12 East. Okay, well, I think the supposed Big 12 West is the division that's just a ball buster. Look, the Pac-12 South, I'm a huge Pac-12 guy. We've talked about this. I mean, and as I have the Bible of college football and Phil Steele.
By the way, affiliate links in the description. Go
affiliate links in the description. Affiliate link in the description. I look at the Pac-12, and I look at the supposed rankings. The Pac-12 South.
Here's the issue. The issue is the Arizona schools. The problem is that you have 2 schools in Arizona. One is a tryhard and one is 100% irrelevant.
No, but what's the real problem with the Pac-12 South? It only takes 3 letters. It's USC. Yeah. USC needs to be better. If the Pac-12 South is going to be the power conference that we all think it should be, the division in that conference that we all think it should be, USC has to be better. We have to get back to, Clay Matthews and Brian Cushing and Matt Leinart and Reggie, but that's who that team should be every year.
Man, the Matt Leinart teams, though.
Man, and he was banging chicks in hot tubs. Yeah, that's why he stayed in college.
But that's why you love USC,
right? The problem is that when you look at their rankings, they're just not 16-7 in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
for a dominant team, that's not very dominant.
Yeah,
I look at. I'm telling you right now, the best team in the Pac-12 is Utah.
Yeah.
Now they need to go out and prove that.
Yeah.
And the Arizona schools, I just don't know how Arizona wins 4 games.
Yeah.
I don't know how Arizona State overcomes all of this scandal. I love what UCLA is doing, but it's LSU.
But the problem is...
I guess I just discounted LSU, but I don't mean to do that. But the problem is Chip Kelly's a gimmick.
Yeah, that's the problem. It feels like a one-off. It feels like Ed O just didn't take the game seriously and they lost that game.
You know, like, and looking at if you don't know about Phil Steele's college football preview, the only thing you need in this magazine is the rankings and the numbers and the statistics, because they're all amazing. But I look at USC. I think they who's the best quarterback in the Pac-12? If you had to pick right now,
Keaton Slovis all day.
You're gonna take Keaton Slovis.
Charlie Brewer's the second best quarterback right here today.
I think it's close, but I look at some of their numbers. How does USC not have the top talent in this conference? How do they not have the best running backs?
The problem is when it was Pete Carroll and like before the death penalty and all that stuff went down, right? Like those teams at that time, USC was a national power, dude.
Yes.
USC was like the end all be all in college football. And it's frustrating to me that the way it worked out. I'm not saying it was unjustified to penalize them and all that stuff, but what I am saying is that it's frustrating that that happened, because now you're in a conference that, and you know, again, we've talked about this at nauseum. I know we're all aware of this, but the Pac-12 just has so much they're doing to hurt themselves. You know, from a media perspective, from recruiting, like it all works together to churn out programs where they let you down. 16-7 is not good enough at USC. That should be like 20-3. You know, that's what that should be.
I that's why I'm skeptical about Chip Kelly. I mean, for everything that he was at Oregon, how good was, at the end of the day, how good was Chip Kelly at Oregon? Because I don't see that Chip Kelly is a guy that took you to a national championship. Did they win Pac-12 championships? Yes. Yes, I think he's got 3 or 4. But is Chip Kelly really a guy where you're like, man, in 09, his heyday was 2009, 2010, didn't win a national championship, didn't get close to it.
And the system was different then, too.
Yeah, and the game was different. The game of college football was different. The recruiting game has gotten much more difficult. Now we're going through another round of expansion and mergers, and I'm going over here and you're going over there.
The whole thing is a mess, dude.
But Chip Kelly has not won at the highest levels. And I think there is this perception that, okay, Chip Kelly's back at UCLA. One, UCLA doesn't put the budget they need to into football. That much is very clear. They'd rather win a national championship in basketball than win a national championship in football.
That's 100% true.
They're always going to be number 2 in LA behind USC. There are very few kids in that town that want to go to UCLA over USC, right? And you would think to yourself, well, my God, UCLA is in Westwood, you know, like the chicks, the streets, the restaurants. USC's in South Central. Like USC is a far better, more attractive proposition than UCLA.
Yep.
And that's why I say Chip Kelly is a guy that is, I was looking last night, he's 30 games over 500 in his career. He's not been dominant his entire coaching career. He had 09 and 10 where he was the baddest man on the planet.
Yeah.
And they still didn't win at the highest levels.
Yep.
Because, and this is where the rubber meets the road. And again, this hurts me to say this as a passionate Pac-12 guy. This hurts me to say this, but is winning the Pac-12 really that much of an accomplishment?
No, because it's only 4 teams deep.
And this is why I say USC needs to be better. Well, do we know who Oregon is right now?
Not yet.
Ask me Monday morning who Oregon is.
Yeah.
Because I think this is a huge weekend for them. I look at Utah. That's why this weekend, the Holy War with BYU, it's a critical game for Utah. This is going to be the most difficult game that most of these Utes are going to have seen at this point because they have a lot of turnover. So does BYU. But I look at Charlie Brewer. I think Charlie Brewer has a chance to be the reason they win games like this.
Yeah, this is why you brought Charlie Brewer into the program.
And if you look at Utah historically, they've never had the best quarterback in the conference. And they don't now, but they have one of. And that's not been the case for some time.
Yeah.
right? And you're seeing that you're getting, even with the tragedy that was Ty Jordan, you're now getting the ability for Utah to run the football. We've seen that now. They established that against Weber. We have an alpha male in the backfield. You know that you have, Keithy and that receiver group. Charlie Brewer now is a guy that can get them the ball. You have a dominant player on defense. You have, that defense is unquestioned.
Devin Lloyd, man.
The question at Utah is going to be their ability to keep Charlie Brewer upright and to create gaps for them to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do that, Utah's going to win this game, and Utah's going to be the best team in the Pac-12.
Okay. Save some for tomorrow.
I will. It'll just be interesting to see how this season of Pac-12 football plays out. Because I really do think it is critical. This year, the Pac-12 is so vulnerable right now because the conference just hasn't made money. It has not competed with the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody's competing with the Big 10 financially. Nobody. But you're not competing to even be the Big 10 at this point. They're doubling your payout. And you finally fired that dick Larry Scott. You finally have a guy at Arizona and Fish who looks like he can coach a football team. You have Herm with all this talent, recruiting scandal. You got Chip Kelly back in the conference. He beats LSU. But what's hanging over their head? We are not going to expand in the Pac-12. We like where we are. And then the Big 12 expands. And we'll make this announcement Friday, adding premium brands that are incredibly valuable. Yep. Adding, I'm telling you now, not adding BYU to the Big 12 is going to come back to be a decision that caused a chain reaction.
The Pac-12.
The Pac-12, excuse me. Not adding BYU to the Pac-12 is a decision that could come back to haunt that conference. Because if the Pac-12 doesn't go out and grow the brand and get a TV deal that's worth a damn, and every game's on TV, and every game's on your cell phone, and every game's on your mobile device, if that doesn't happen, if you don't grow that payout, you're going to lose. You're probably almost assuredly going to lose Oregon and USC. But that's not what's going to cripple you. What'll cripple you is what's going to happen when a team like a Utah, a team like a Colorado, brands that fit very nicely without you into the Big 12. If the Pac-12 were smart, I'm telling you, they'd be pursuing a merger with the Big 12. Become a dominant national force. Because the Pac-12 right now is irrelevant.
Yep.
And again, it hurts me to even say that. But it is what it is. Huffam says, Utah play calling in big games is usually ho-hum. Well, now you have a guy who's got the arm to drive the ball, midfield and further.
Yeah.
And you have playmakers that if you put the ball in, a Britton Covey's hands in space, and you haven't been able to do that regularly, Charlie Brewer's a guy that can do that. Because Charlie Brewer's not got some huge arm, and he's not going to throw the ball all over the 40 yards plus down the field. He's going to put the ball in the right place, on their body, in their frame, and they're going to be able to run after the catch. So, anyway, I love talking football.
Yeah,
I could
tomorrow.
talk football all day long. Day Old Donut says Pac-12 South is the best in the Pac-12. Problem is they would still lose to Oregon laying an egg, probably.
That's what happened in 2019.
And if you're just tuning in, we have some details that nobody else really has on Pac-12 expansion. Friday, the presidents are going to meet and make an announcement of, hey, we invited, BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, and Central Florida to the Big 12. Those schools will almost immediately turn around and accept. It's a formality. But the divisional lineup is what is so contested, and I'm told that it's going to be East-West. In the West, it'll be BYU, Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, Houston, and probably Iowa State. Because the team that nobody respects here is Oklahoma State, and they carry an awful lot of power and influence in the Big 12, which would put them in the East with Kansas, K-State, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Central Florida, and Oklahoma State. I mean, that's a power football conference.
Yeah.
That basketball conference, are you kidding me? Baylor, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Kansas, K-State. And this is the reason I say that I think the Pac-12 is vulnerable. Can you imagine Utah, Colorado, and BYU being the far western reach of the Big 12? Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. It'll be interesting. It will be interesting. What is LES? He gets it. Trust me. No, we're not just going to hand you the. Everybody's asking for the Xbox too. Subscribe. Take a picture on our YouTube channel. Take a picture that you're subscribed. Tag us on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok. I'm The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. Jake is SLC Supercars. You have to tag us both. And you'll be entered to win the Xbox. We're also giving away a Traeger smoker when we get to 2,500. So channel's growing. Channel's doing well. I mean,
yeah.
Yep. We'll be fine. Boy, there's some good shoe releases. Good Lord. Lopes fan Gabe says, I guess natural selection sterilizing the ones who are too stupid to die is the best we can hope for. Please don't take ivermectin. I'm asking nicely. Please don't take ivermectin. All right, play the music. I guess that's it. Talk more Pac-12 football. We talk a ton of Pac-12. And listen, if you're new to this show, we appreciate you being here. We do. Look at all the DMs. By the way, I'd love to hear a story. Bryce Larkin says, I'd love to hear your This Is Where I Was story on 9/11 tomorrow. Yeah, this weekend, by the way, did you guys realize this weekend's a 20-year anniversary of 9/11? I'll tell that story on the show tomorrow. Me and Mrs. Monty. I know my wife remembers it vividly where we were and what we did that day. It involves a BJ. Not like that's a restaurant.
You did say you were talented orally earlier in the show.
Well, we did talk about sperm today.
Yeah, so I mean.
It's fine. It involves a BJ's Brew House and KTLA TV. I'll tell that story tomorrow. Big day of locks tomorrow, NFL and college football locks for you tomorrow on the show. It's Football Friday. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.